Right, okay, so this problem is asking us to count the number of substrings in a larger string, or potentially a larger string. So for instance here, they've got this string A, B, C, D, C, D, C, and we want to count the number of occurrences of C, D, C. So in other words, what we want to do is we want to go through this and say, first of all, well, notice that the substring has got a length of 3, and we'll know that using the len function. And we want to test to see whether or not strings of length 3 as substrings of this string are equal to CDC. So we'll check ABC, no, that's not the same. And then we'll go on and check BCD, no, that's not the same. Then we'll check the next 3, which is CDC, that is the same, so that's once. And then we'll check the next one, DCD, which isn't the same. And then we'll check the next one, CDC, which again is the same. So there's 2 there, so that's why the output is 2. So that's what we want to do here. So our job is to create this function called count substring, which counts the number of times that substring appears in this string. So I'm going to use the number of times that it is the same as with this variable called count. And I'm going to start at the beginning of the string. So if you remember when I went through this up here, my start index is going to be 0. So I'm going to start here, and then I'm going to pick out the substring of the length of this substring from this string. So that's what I'm doing here. So this is how I pick out this substring. So I'm picking out, starting at the character I, and an I is going from the beginning of this string up to the length, but I don't want to go right through to the end. The reason being is if I do this, if I'm going through starting from here, A, B, C, then B, C, D, then C, D, C, then D, C, D, there's no point checking the DC because there's no character after it, because I can't possibly have CDC in a string that's only length 2. So I'm going to go through starting at the start index. I'm going to finish at the length of the string minus the length of the substring. In other words, I'm going to start, I'm only going to go through to the end of here minus the length of the substring, and then because a for loop range thing is always one more, I need to start off at 1 plus 1 here. And then I'm going to get my substring, which is basically starting at the position I and going through to one more, I plus the length of the substring. And I want to determine whether that's the same as substring. And if it is, I'm going to increase the count by 1. So it's a bit easier if I show you this in PyCharm. So I'm going to put a breakpoint here, and let's debug that. Okay, now it's asking for these 2 strings now. So that's this one, the string, and the string, and let's use the example that they've given us. So that's going to be A, B, C, D, C, D. A, B, C, D, C, D. And C, D, C as being the substring, C, D, C. So off we go. We're going to step into the function. So it sets the count to be 0 to start with, because we obviously haven't counted any. And you can see what the string is ABC, DCD, and the substring is CDC. And the start index is 0. So we're going to start from 0 to the length of the string, which of course is 6, minus 3, which is 6 minus 3, which is 3. So we're only going to be going, so we're going to do that check. We're going to see ABC 1, 2, 3. There's no point going anymore because there isn't enough characters. But I've just noticed an error. We need to make sure that our range goes 1 more than this. So actually, if we go through this, you'll see the bug. So let's have a look. We're going to go, so is this substring ABC the same as this value here, this string from that value there. Now I've added that to a watch down here so we can see our ABC. Okay, so is ABC the same as CDC? No, it isn't. So it goes over that and doesn't count it. So now the next one. So the next one is going to be BCD. So that's this character, and this character. That's not the same, so it doesn't increase. And then the next one, CDC, is the same, so this time it's going to increase the count by 1. And then do you notice it jumps over? And that's because a range should always be 1 more than the ending loop, so I need to add 1 here. So let's stop that and debug again. So now we've got our A, B, C, D, C, D, and what's it, C, D, C? A, B, C, D, C. Oh no, it's A, B, C, D, C, D, C. Okay, stop again. A, B, C, D, C. I've forgotten already. A, B, C, D, C, D, C. A, B, C, D, C, C. And check was CDC. Substring check. So here we go. So step into that now. And again, we've got our watch down here. We've got all sorts of things in here. Let's actually just remove all of those watches because it's annoying. And let's add our substring that we're checking for here. And right click that and add to watches. And as we go into our for loop, that will become, so ABC we're checking against CDC, which obviously isn't the same, so it won't increase the count. Now that we're checking CDC against BCD, as we can see here, that's not the same, so we won't increase the count. Now we're checking CDC against CDC, so the count will go up by 1, does, and then the next time we're going around, we're now checking DCD against CDC, which is not the same. And then finally, the last string is going to be CDC. Can you see? That's that one. So that's going to increase the count by 1. And now we've finished and return the count. Okay, so the count is 2. There are indeed 2 lots of CDC in there. There's one CDC and there's the other CDC. So let's go back to our HackerRank version of that. Come on. Why isn't that working? Let's just close that down. And I've already input that code there. And let's run it to see what happens. So let's run the code. And yeah, congratulations. So let's submit that code and it will do all the test cases and hopefully they've all completed. Correct. Excellent.